No, I have not forgotten about this build. I'm well aware that this build has been taking forever. Actually, I was waiting to see if the 9950X 3DX2 or 3D2 or whatever was gonna be worth waiting for. And it wasn't. And then I went on vacation and then I had some other obligations to get done and now we're getting back to it. So today we're gonna see if we can't take a tube and mount it to a thing and get some tubing in there, which is, I guess, half the process.
Look, as tech geeks, we would protect our internet connection with things like VPNs and we like antiviruses and stuff, but why would you leave your bank account information fully exposed to the internet? That's why today I'm gonna talk to you about privacy.com, because privacy.com is almost like a VPN for your bank account. Privacy.com allows you to create virtual cards that you can use anywhere online, allowing you to keep a complete dedicated buffer between your bank information and the site that you might be buying from. And trust me, with data breaches these days, as somebody that's had credit card and bank information leak, having to go in and cancel all those cards and figure out everywhere that those payments were set up was a complete pain in the butt. Now, one of the best use cases for a virtual card like this is online subscription services. They do not make it easy for you to cancel, but you know what is easy? You can go in and cancel the card that you use to sign up for these subscriptions so that they can no longer charge you any hidden fees. Or when you cancel the service, they've got that, oh, just one more charge because you missed the date by a certain cutoff date. Nope. You can lock or cancel the virtual card to stop the charges while you're in the process of canceling the subscription. Now, let's also say you want to go and buy a gift for someone and it's from a site that you've never heard of and you've got some real reservations about putting real card information inside that merchant's payment form. So you can go in and create a virtual card that's a one-time use card. So then you're not worrying about whether or not that merchant's going to sell that card information, because guess what? It'll only work one time. So it's fully customizable on the types of cards that you want to create, allowing you to have the least amount of exposure when it comes to unknowns when shopping online. Now, I'm a very difficult person to shop for, and when Christmas time rolls around or birthday time rolls around, my wife says she can never buy me anything because I see the bank statements. So I always know what's coming ahead of time. So that's why the extra anonymity you get with private spend mode, which replaces a merchant name on your bank statement with a generic privacy.com descriptor, makes it really easy to surprise somebody without them knowing what they're getting because they saw it on the bank statement. Now, one reason why I've been a customer of privacy.com for over 8 years now is the fact that Privacy doesn't sell customer data. Ever. Like other credit card companies, Privacy collects transaction fees called interchange from merchants. They don't and never will sell customer data, and protecting your privacy isn't just part of their business, it's in their name. Go to privacy.com/Jays2cents, that's privacy.com/Jays2cents, and get your $5 sign-up bonus today. And that $5 can be used on your first purchase. So sign up for Privacy to get control over who charges you and when, and get peace of mind when shopping online. Click the link in the description to start making privacy part of your daily routine.
Okay, so I've got to go ahead and take this motherboard back out. I've got the fan. Oh, that was the other thing too. I had to order the fans. Didn't have enough for the bottom rads. Those are good now. I was like gonna get a piece of paper and try to like create a template to have the mounting holes on the backside here for the reservoir pump combo, and then I realized I could just use the bracket as the template because that's what that's for. Anyway, also too, I switched out the pump. This is an EK pump. I'll tell you the whole reason why. Actually, I can't because the other one I put it away already. For whatever reason, Aqua Computer had like sleeved cable for the like PWM signal and the RPM signal, and then non-sleeved cable for the Molex. So it's funny because Hank over at Performance PCs, who sponsored these parts for me, reached out to Aqua Computer and said, hey, watch this video from Jay. One, why the hell are you still using Molex, right? I mean, what year is it? And two, why are you only sleeving half your crap? And then Hank was like, Jay, you also know we offer sleeving, so we could have sleeved it for you. I didn't know it didn't come sleeved. So those cool services are all available over at Performance PCs. Check them out at www.performance-pcs.com. So I'm gonna be mounting it to this panel here. It's metal, which is nice. It should hold the weight. It mounts in several different spots. Wait, does that come off? Yes, it does come off. Okay, cool. Gotta take the motherboard back out though, because I need to mount the block to it. I could technically do it with it in there, but I think right now while I'm moving around in here, it'll just make more sense to get the motherboard out for safety purposes. And then trying to keep all the parts on the cart. It's actually Nick's idea. Because when I build, I tend to like explode pieces just everywhere. And then that's fine until suddenly I can't find stuff. So I'm gonna get this motherboard back out, and I should probably put drives and stuff in here. Starting to really like this build to the point to where I think I'm gonna replace my work PC, which has been Intel for the last couple months now. I still owe you guys the update of like, I switched back to Intel from my work PC. How's it been? And let's say it started off smooth. And then let's say things evolved. So stay tuned for that. This is why I took longer than 30 days to determine whether or not gamers are just fanboys that like to hate on things, which is true. That is very true. It's just y'all can't agree on what you hate on. You just all hate all of it, apparently. And then specifically, like, regarding Intel systems and if they're as bad as everyone says they are. If anything, the whole, like, build challenge thing from Micro Center should prove to y'all that unless you are min-maxing with, like, a 5090 or something like that, the 9800 X3D is not the end-all be-all. Now, I think it's a great CPU, but I'm a little sick and tired of hearing about how amazing it is when, even with the faster GPUs, technically, with like the 5070 Ti with the ray tracing stuff, it was not like game-changing. But anyway, now that plenty of you have unsubscribed and written your hate comments from those, and we've done a little bit of a mini purge, we can move on. So I'm gonna take this panel off right here. And I guess while it's upside down, I should probably take the bottom rads out too, because I have to put the connecting, the connecting tubes right there. This is where it's a lot of repetitive, put it together, take it apart, put it together, take it apart, put it together, take it apart. Because remember, this was just still together from the mock-up, but in order to get the connecting tube in there like I need, dang it, and I bet you I didn't keep the one I cut out of acrylic to be my measurement like I did on the top, because it'd be the same on the bottom. Anyway, they have to like push together like that. Like I can't swivel that tube and get it in, because usually you can line up like the edge of the pipe and the edge of the pipe if it's long enough, and then sort of like thunk, get it in like that, but when it's real close together, you can't do that. So have to take it apart and slide it together and then hold it down with the screws. But I'm gonna have to cut my acrylic tube again. Then once I have the compression fittings and stuff on there, it's like, you know, slide it together like that to make the fit and then lock it down. Cool thing is that means those cannot come loose, which is pretty cool. Okay, and now that I have my fans, this was the other thing I was waiting on to be able to get those mounted on the bottom. Then we can continue. So these are really expensive, but you know what? Love or hate Corsair. I've been using iCue at home now on my rig that you guys have seen me build for a bit. And it's just convenient because of the fact that it's one cable that will run all 6 of these fans on the bottom and then all 6 of the fans on the top. And then it's 2 cables going into a single hub that has a 6-pin PCI Express cable and then a USB cable going to it. Now, iCue gets justifiable hate, okay? It has screwed me in the past. It has screwed other people in the past because of things like forgetting profiles or firmware updates that just like to brick something. And so I was a little bit leery of going with iCue based system on my personal rig now. But you know what? So far it's been pretty solid. I've had a couple updates, auto update on me, and I'm like, oh God, is this gonna be the one? And so far everything still continues to work just fine. Every now and then I'll turn on the system and it just won't like apply my nebulous color theme with like the vaporwave colors. And usually it's just a restart and it works fine. Nothing has been as bad as what Synapse was. I just have to say that. I don't understand how a brand like Razer has been around for as long as they have been and still can't seem to get the software right. Synapse has screwed Phil. Synapse has screwed me multiples of times, both on Razer laptops and desktops running their RGB controller hub and stuff, to where I felt like this was the better risk. And so far it's been solid. Doesn't mean it's not gonna bite me. And it doesn't mean those of you that hate iCue don't have a justifiable reason to not like it. But for me so far, it's been solid. Okay, I just had an OCD moment that I had to check. You notice how these can connect either way? And I was like, oh no, are the ship sails going the same direction? See how these are opposite? So I was like, making them all face the right way. And then I went, oh crap, on the top, are they the same? And yes, they are. Now the top of the sails is first facing towards the back of the rig, which means these have to flip over because I want them all going the same direction. If you've ever had like one fan turned where the logo is like different than the rest and it's bothered you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If that's never bothered you, I envy you. Consider that a superpower, to not let something like that get, living rent-free in your head, because it sucks. All right, anyway, back to this thing. All right, so I saved you guys from the dirty motions that it takes to lube up the insert in there. Just use a little bit of like hand soap, your finger, and the twisting motion, okay? Whatever. And also spin it as you're putting it in. Come on, there we go. So now, because we want to be careful and not cut the O-ring. We want it to slide in there nicely. But if you cut the O-ring, then you're gonna have a bad day. Oh, damn it, Jay, you suck. Okay, well that was a good test fit. Forgot the O-rings and the collars. The lubrication doesn't matter as much with like PETG or acrylic tubes, but it definitely does with the metal tubes because these can slice the O-rings pretty easily. So you don't want too much friction. Whatever, sounds like I'm describing something else entirely. But you don't want too much friction when you're sliding it in there, it could cut things. Man-child. In more ways than one. All right, so the bottom rad is pretty much done, which means that was the last thing I was waiting on to be able to truly get this loop figured out. All 12 fans are intake, by the way, for those wondering. For water-cooled rigs, especially with high GPU needs like a 5090 in terms of cooling, tested it extensively and found that all intake is the absolute best solution for it, especially with this many fans, because it means that there's so much ventilation in this case. Positive pressure is fine. Negative pressure is only bad for dust purposes. But these bottom 6 are intake, the top are intake, and then there's so much mesh back here, it'll just push the air out the back. So, cool, we're good to go there. I really wish this was adjustable over a little bit because I still have to figure out a GPU bracket support because of the fact that the GPU is just barely short enough that where it doesn't fit right here. I was thinking it could potentially be neat to use, where'd it go? This bracket here, right? This is from Singularity Computers, their mount. Maybe flip it over or something. And then maybe come up with a bracket or something off of that, but I think something pointing up right here would be kind of dumb. I also thought it could be neat if I were to come up with, say, a piece of metal or something here that I could do a pass-through fitting on, and then have an actual fitting and tube coming up and holding the GPU or something to where it would actually just blend into the rest of the build because you'd have those chrome tubes everywhere. So that'll be one of the last things I deal with though, because the GPU is one of the last parts that I worry about when it comes to builds like this. So now that the radiator's on the top, the bottom and the top are connected on that back tube that you saw in the previous video. I now have a fitting here. It's very difficult to see, but I have a fitting here and I have a fitting here, which is perfect because I have the reservoir that's gonna go right here. The in is on the right side. So the res is gonna go here on that plate that I removed. So I'm gonna just go from there down to the in. So it'll look very similar to the rear tube, just coming over and up. We'll have a lot of vertical tubes in this build. That's the out, which means then I can just figure out into the GPU and then out of the GPU into the CPU. And then the CPU back to somewhere. I gotta figure out the loop. So basically, essentially, I've turned these 4 rads into one big rad where I have an inlet and an outlet on the rad. Just gotta figure out the loop. I think the CPU, honestly, oh, it has to go here. Yeah, it has to come back down to here. Oh, that's gonna be a weird crossover. I think it makes more sense to go out from the reservoir into the CPU, out of the CPU into the GPU, and then GPU back down to here. That'll make more sense. It doesn't matter which component you go to first. So many people get this wrong, and they die on this hill of incorrectness, where they say, you don't wanna put the coolant into the GPU first, because then you're just gonna make your CPU hotter. Again, have tested loop order for a couple of decades. It doesn't matter. You might see a 1 or 2 C difference in max temperature under full load of the CPU. The problem is, if you're fully loading the GPU, the CPU load is never gonna be impacted by that temperature as much as you think, because the GPU is what's most important to cool in the loop as far as I'm concerned. The CPU can be cooled by just a regular ass, you know, NX 400 tower these days. It's the 600 watt GPU that matters. So I'd much rather transfer a couple of degrees of temperature to the CPU than to go from CPU to GPU and then mess the order up in this case, we have to do it that way, but mess the order up in terms of cleanliness because of a myth that you still fall for. It's not like a car. Stop comparing PC loops to a car. We are not talking about massive delta T's between ambient, the coolant temperature, and the combustion chamber of an engine. This is a low temperature thing that's being cooled by coolant that's never gonna get any hotter than about 40 C at the most. Okay, we are now talking about engines where you have combustion chambers reaching 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you have coolant that is running at 220 degrees Fahrenheit, creating a massive delta in temperature when that water flows through the heads to capture heat and pull it away. You also only have the thermostat slowing things down because of the fact that if you run the coolant full open loop, oftentimes, or like an unrestricted loop, it can overcool, and that's only a problem for complete burning of the fuel because the cylinder heads are too cold. Totally different science here. I'm just so sick of people being like, well, an engine in the car. It's like, shut up, you're wrong. You're wrong, it doesn't apply here. Stop comparing apples to fucking onions. Anyway, this is the Alpha Cool block. It goes like that. It's gonna look pretty, but I'm not sure which is in and which is out. This is in. In is always on the center, it's out. So that's okay, that's perfect actually, because it's a little bit higher. I'm not gonna rotate this anything weird because then the Alpha Cool logo being all sideways would bother me. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this mounted down now. It's been a while since I've used anything Alpha Cool. So it seems to me like I should probably look at the manual. I don't know what these spacers are for. These are probably gonna be for Intel, honestly. But I feel like they've definitely come a long way in their quality. Alpha Cool used to be a brand that like no matter what you got, no matter what you paid, it came scratched. And I used to make the joke of like, they're just pre-scratching it for you, just getting it out of the way. Now what's funny about this, these are like some of the exact same hold down brackets that I've seen with AIOs. So although their blocks are really pretty, they still sort of cheap out on their hardware. But I guess what are you gonna do? Pretty simple though for AMD. Just undo the 4 screws, holding down the retention clip. Back plate does not come, this part does not come off on AM4 or AM5, I mean AM4 it does, but these are symmetrical. No, they're not, they're 2 different threads. So coarse thread goes into the bracket. And this is like the same kind of mounting hardware I see that comes with like Asetek AIOs and stuff, so a little disappointing. In fact, I'll take this off so you guys can see a little better. Yeah, isn't that cool how that quick release works? And as we found with our thermal paste video, the X pattern, which looks more like the old Singularity logo, works the best. Not gonna even bother spreading it. I took it off.
Nice.
Yeah. Happened before where I didn't. This just snaps together like that. That goes down like, and then we take our 4 retention things here, which are kind of ugly, I think. I feel like I could replace these. I think I have some nice stainless ones. Hold on. This is why I keep all hardware. They're more like black chrome, but they are legitimately Asetek like bolt or hold downs, which is so funny. Whatever, I mean, if it works, right? Oh, it's upside down. Why change it? There, I think that looks a little better than those would have. Maybe you disagree, that's okay. I'm gonna leave the plastic covers on until we're done with the build. We don't scratch anything, but I think that Alpha Cool block looks really nice in there. Okay, so the little grid pattern on here actually was kind of perfect for me to make sure it was like perfectly squared and not crooked. So I just taped the bracket down, poked holes through where I need to drill, and I'll just be using the bracket as my guide. That way I know the holes are good. And then what I'll do is I'll probably make the holes just ever so slightly larger than they need to be. That way I have some adjustment in there. So if it's like slightly crooked or something, that's fine. Okay, so This is pretty simple. I'm not even gonna use the, it's really thin metal, so I'm not even gonna use the drill press for this. I'm just gonna use the hand drill. And I'm gonna do it out in the shop though, that way I don't get metal bits all up in here. All right, so now for mounting this, it's got these standoffs I have to go on there like that because it's round, right? So Minnesota. I thought about putting a hole in here and then a grommet for the wires, like depin this, push them through and whatnot. But it's so close to the bottom as it is, like there's really no point. I could just run it underneath and zip tie it down, make a little zip tie mount or something, but no point in getting all crazy with it. Now the only downside is it kind of pushes out a little bit. So what I think I'm gonna end up doing is making a little rubber spacer to go in there to like lean that back. Because there's only a bottom mount. Like normally, yeah, that's a lot higher than I intended that to be. You see what I mean? How it's like, it really needs a mount on the top. Okay, well, if I have to scoot those down, that'll stink. What I would end up doing is just, I guess, putting, dang. I thought for sure I had that measured right. Works. Anyway, I just had to use those screws to sort of plug those holes. Okay, so first time is usually the charm. You know, you only get one first time unless you're me. You just get multiple first times, and then when it works, you say, "See, nailed it." So this should now be. It is what it is. Where it lands is where it's going. That's more what I was going for, because you know you might be like, "Oh, it's down too far," but we have that cap height that we have to account for too. So now I've just got to create my spacer, and you know what? Those screws don't even really show. Like, they're totally blocked by it. So anyway, now I got to figure out the anti-wobble mechanism. All right, there it is, mounted to the bracket. I've got the cables kind of managed on the back side, and then it literally just presses in. Like, it's gonna feel like it could just pop out any minute until the tubes and stuff are on it. I still feel like I need to put something in the bottom just to stabilize that. What? I don't know. But that's gonna look really good. Holy cow. The more pieces that make their way in here, the better it looks. I mean, you might say, well, duh, but there's been plenty of builds like along the way, I'm like, oh, I'm not really liking the way that's turning out. And then I scrapped them, and you guys noticed that. Like, the two builds people were saddest about that got scrapped was the Red Dead Redemption build and the V8 engine build. But now that we have the CNCs and the 3D printers, I really want to kind of start getting back into that type of case modding, but it's just so time intensive, and I lack the modeling knowledge. That's where we get hung up. It's like we have the tools, but we need the knowledge, right? We need the materials knowledge. Okay, or material science, as Phil put it. So I need to figure out something to sort of wedge down here on the bottom just to keep that from wobbling so much. So let me see what I can come up with. Oh yeah, they ain't going nowhere. The rubber's in there nice and tight. Okay, now I've got a nice thick rubber grommet in there, and it ain't gonna move nowhere. The sucker's in there. Cool. Still wobbles a little bit, but it's not as bad. And now I can start to figure out this loop. So, that's a little crooked. Fortunately, it has some play in it. That's why I made the holes a little bit larger, right? So I have room to play. Okay, so I need to go from this fitting right here to here, which I think is gonna be pretty easy. And then I'm gonna have to go from here when the GPU and everything is in there, back to there, and then from here to there. So let me start by going from this fitting to the in right there. And I think it's gonna be very similar to how I did the connecting tube in the backside. Just gonna be using a couple of 45s and some rotary angles and stuff. Yeah, let me play around with some fitting angles and stuff, and we'll see what I come up with. All right, so I think I've got this one all figured out. Let me lube my tube. Never gonna get old. So I'll show you this, slide that in. Get the color started. And then, cool. What I like about these fittings though is that the O-ring, like it has a seat, right? So here's where it comes in, then it can bottom out against the shelf on the bottom. The O-ring's at the very tip. So even if you don't get it fully bottomed out, because say it's a couple millimeters too short, you still get a seal, which is very helpful in this scenario, because I think it's like 1.5 millimeters or so too short, but that's okay. There, looks perfect, right? But no, because this is on a rotary, or like it rotates up here, you can just rotate that to where it is vertical.
Nice.
Polish that up. Now it does, at this angle, lean back slightly. Can't really do much about that. That's just because of the length of this right here. It is what it is. I think if I was to put my other 90 on here, I think it would be too far that way. I could still try that though. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think I'm okay with as long as looking that way. You can see it's all squared up perfectly, because I don't think Phil can even tell it's leaning into the PC from that angle. You have to be like right here looking at the back and go, oh yeah, it's leaning in. It's actually leaning in a fair amount. So I think I'm gonna try it with the 90. So let me see if I can do something about that real quick. And then I don't know if we'll get to the CPU tube today, maybe. That's gonna be a tough one, because I'm gonna have to use these. I don't have any out right now. They're basically, they look like 90s, but they have compression fittings on either end. So a tube would attach to either side of that 90. And that helps where I have to put a bend somewhere where I can't bend the metal tube. Now I do have 90-degree bent tubes also. I'm just kind of trying to avoid using them, because it would be weird if it had one bend and then a fitting bend, because I can't do a double bend in the metal tubing. Well, it does actually look better that way. So I had to use an extension piece right here, and if you can see, I've showed them before. It's just a little extension, a knurled extension that pushed it out just enough. 45-degree angle on the rotary, lines it up straight. So now it's not leaning back and it's perfectly vertical, right? So now, if I show you this way, right before it was leaning in, now it's vertical. So, works for me. Now I gotta connect this tube on the back again, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a pressure test. I'm gonna cap off the radiator, and then I'm going to plug into the output of the pump reservoir combo and use my my little air pump to put pressure in there and make sure it holds. That way I don't have to take this back apart. That's the only reason I would have to take it apart, is if, like, there are little O-ring bits on the table. You can't help it. It definitely slices the O-ring slightly this way. But I've yet to have it cause a problem to where enough O-ring got jacked up to where it it leaked. So fingers crossed that is a tradition that gets upheld today, that although a little bit of O-ring material got sliced, that we're not gonna deal with a leak. So this is the tube that you guys already saw in the first part. I guess technically it might have been the second part. I don't remember. This is not all gonna be done in one video, obviously, because we're past that point. But that's why I was saying, like, the vertical aspect of it on the front, sorry to get heavy, really just ties into that whole aesthetic, even though you can't really see the back. It is glass on the back, you can see in there, and I might actually add some subtle lighting around the area just to draw your attention to it. So now it is time to do a leak test. So let me put a plug in the radiator. I have to plug the rad because it's connected to the reservoir now. And see, there's some more O-ring material. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've never done a build with the chrome tubing or nickel-plated tubing that didn't, shave the O-rings. It's just impossible, even though I've tried to deburr the edges as much as I can. I need to make sure I get that on tight enough too. Okay. All right, fingers crossed. There's so much volume. It's holding though. You can tell there's 4 radiators because I'm pumping the crap out of it and I still haven't reached the green. It is moving slowly though. See that?
Oh yeah, you're out of the green now?
Yeah. But I'm wondering where it could possibly be leaking from. Could be this cap right here. I mean, I've gotten that cap down fully. Ow! See, now it's not moving, and all I did was tighten the cap a little more. I just can't get my fingers in there very well. Yeah, I really think it was just this cap right here. Okay. See it now? Just because I tightened that cap some.
Yeah, it's not moving.
It's not moving anymore. Okay, so all 4 radiators are connected and connected to the reservoir. So that part is figured out. Obviously what's left to do now on the loop is getting from here to there, from there to the GPU, and then GPU back to the radiator, and then figuring out the support, and then all the wiring will be taking place in the back because it's a BTF, except for the one power connector going to the GPU, because even though it's a BTF board, I can't use BTF because this case only supports vertical bracket, vertical mount. So with that said, I think that's where we're gonna go ahead and end today's video. Doesn't seem like I got much done, but I did get done one of the biggest necessities of a loop is figuring out the pump and reservoir solution. So if you guys are not if you don't remember, this is the Ultitube D5 from Aqua Computer, another German company, which is almost feels like very over-engineered. I did switch out the pump, like I said, for an EK1 that was already sleeved that I had because they didn't sleeve the whole thing. It's funny, it kind of plays tricks on your brain. Like I look at this and immediately I think there's a mirror wall that's allowing me to see the fans. Like I'm so not used to side-by-side. The only other build I've ever done that had side-by-side radiators was only at the top, and it could fit 2 420s, and it was the Inwin 928 build. And then I did the 925, which was smaller and only supported 360s. But I think this is gonna look so clean. The chrome tubes, I think, was the right touch on this. Black with chrome tubing is just always so classy. I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do with the lighting though, because I don't want to lose the chrome tubing to a lot of color. So I might just go with a subtle, like low intensity, like maybe not a hyper white, but not a warm white, like somewhere in between, just so it has this kind of like almost like a jewelry feel. Like it kind of feels like jewelry at this point. All right, guys. The next video for this will be the last one. It won't take weeks because I'm back and I've got the stuff I need to get it done. And I was thinking I was gonna put this together for the video and then like tear it apart, but now I'm like, I don't know if I want to, because this one's turning out really, really good. Might end up becoming my new workstation. Like I said, the Intel follow-up video coming, so stay tuned for that. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.